Hello, my lovelies. I'm Jenny Ove, the author with no last name, and I'm also a sometime peer reviewer, fashion designer, and game dev. Today, I'm going to take some MMORPG or streamer discussion and apply it to Star Stable Online and how Star Stable's problems are the industry problems taken to the extremes, mostly revolving, but not limited to the cash shop. Mostly after watching Asmongold's video, Amazon roasted by Ashes of Creation for MMO Cash Shop, he said some things in the video I found to be really important, and I want to expound on them in reference to Star Stable Online. And I'll be bringing up another MMORPG or streamer's video to back up the points, one Josh Strife Hayes. So you're probably wondering, why, Jenny, do you watch these MMO streamers? What do you have in common with them at all? They have no idea I watch them because I don't comment. I'm not really their target audience. We have differing opinions at times. I mean, okay, I found the Lazy Peon playing Guild Wars for the first time to be pretty hysterical. Sorry, Guild Wars was the MMO I chose out of the big three Western MMOs back in college, aka for me 2005, 2006. Guild Wars is my gold standard for MMOs. Josh is really funny, and I appreciate funny guys, plus I relate to his N64 playing GoldenEye with friends and playing Command & Conquer. For me, though, it was Red Alert. These guys have their fingers on the pulse of what is going on in the MMO industry from the player's perspective. They say things in their videos that are important for video game companies and game devs to hear. And so if someone like the Lazy Peon, who is a dedicated endgame PvP loving type of player, says something like, Black Desert Online story is really good, you ought to play it, I'm going to believe him, because if he's taken the time to stop and do the reading, then it's probably pretty decent. Unfortunately, I'm not really interested in playing 101 combat-heavy fantasy MMO games set in medieval Tudor England. To me, it's exhausting and not exciting. I'm bored out of my gourd. So I let the Lazy Peon and Skyland and Asmongold and Josh Strife Hayes and MMO Bytes do it for me and listen to what they say because they have different viewpoints and opinions on what makes a game good. If I was going to get back into that style of MMO, I'd be going and finding my codes of Guild Wars and giving that a shot again, being older and wiser and understanding the concepts of builds and recon. There are a lot of different MMO type players, and I'm only one type of player, so it's important for me as a game dev to listen to other types of players to see what they like and what they want in a game. There are 8 to 16 type of MMO players depending on who you talk to, so it's good to know that Josh's opinion, because he likes PvE and story, is going to be different than the Lazy Peon's opinion about the exact same game. And if Josh makes me laugh, all the better, because I can use the laugh. Would they want to play Mystic Riders MMORPG if it existed? Probably not. Would they like Star Stable? No, absolutely not. And to be fair, Star Stable is the only one female-oriented open-world MMO in the industry, and as much as it does have YouTubers making videos about it, most of them aren't being analytical outside of 2 or 3. Denise Rystorm and Rattle. And when a YouTuber plays horse games, they're Let's Plays, not is this game worth playing and why type of videos. There is no streamer out there paying attention to things like Equestrian the Game. That needs a new title stat. Or Rival Stars Racing's development of an open world map, or Windstorm, aka Oswin's open world project. That is, if there is even information out there to be had, since horse games aren't as open as these big MMOs. I'll be dragged back into these MMO streamers' orbits by drama, generally like the Dreamworld scam or the New World Cash Shop. So if you've been drawn here by my title, hi guys! For those of you unaware, Star Stable Online is a massive multiplayer, online, non-combat, single-player horse game targeted at the 8 to 18-year-old female demographic. Yes, lots of players in one world playing a single-player, railroaded story they don't need to group up with to complete. Note, I don't call it an RPG because it has no RPG mechanics. There are no professions, classes, factions, or even a dedicated stat system that is customizable and makes any sense. There are no skills, skill trees, or even a magic system. There is also no housing or way to customize the color of, say, your clothes. Crafting is fetch, quest, grind, and mounts are pretty cosmetics that don't provide any substantial advantage to gameplay. Why play? This is the only open world horse game of any size. There is literally nothing else. Okay, here is my usual disclaimer. There will be spoilers for Star Stable and Starshine Legacy ahead. None of what I'm going to address is the game dev's fault. They are not in charge of making decisions about things such as game software like the engine or the update schedule. Please do not harass the game devs. This isn't the ambassador's fault. They are free PR mouthpieces for SSO. Please do not harass the ambassadors. And if you don't like my opinions, just please play nice in the comments because once again, SSO's fanbase is mostly made up of children and teenagers. Okay. If you haven't watched my Star Stable, How Not to Make an MMO, I recommend it for some background information, or at least watching The Controversy and The Real Problem, which is videos number 4 and 5, where I go over the true issue to Star Stable, aka the dire straits of the technology and the lack of branding. But we're going to delve in a bit further using some quotes from Asmongold's video. I'll link the video down below and any others I mention. So, Asmongold's video is a reaction to Amazon's New World putting a cash shop in their alpha game. Huh? What? No. Bad. And to make matters worse, they're going to be putting in pay-to-play features basically for those they claim can't spend more time in the game, which is, as Asmongold does point out, totally ignores why MMORPGers plays MMOs in the first place. Yes, I played Guild Wars because it had at least 30 hours of main story game play, plus I don't know how many hours of side quests, and that was only Guild Wars. Factions in Nightfall added 20 to 30 more hours of main story quests each, so those three had at least 60 to 90 hours of main story quests. Star Stable has maybe 6 hours. Maybe 6.5 if I'm being generous. After 10 years of development, since it opened in September of 2011, and there was 300 hours of throttle quests, that means you've got 294 hours of grind and fluff. No. Bad. So at the 3 minutes 55 second mark, Asmongold says, whenever you can buy something in the cash shop, emphasis mine, that something no longer matters in the game, emphasis mine. There are a lot of things to buy in SSO. Roughly, as of the time of this video, 400 premium currency mounts and 6,000 items in the cash shop, and counting, of which all have a premium currency option. And there is very little hindering players from buying most of these items outside of player level and sometimes location. The global store is not actually global, and reputation level. All of which is fixed with grind, and you can get up to level 15 within a month, I bet, and some of the items are higher than level 16 only because the place you can buy them at is unlocked at higher than level 16. Not that the stats are any different. There is no stat progression on items in this game. Level 16 stats aren't better than level 5 stats. The mounts in Star Stable, which the game revolves around being a horse game, are all paid for with premium currency and thus meaningless. Woohoo! You have 30 bucks. They are cosmetics made to garner attention and channel sales of premium currency to children and bring no value mechanically to the game, as they don't have a stat system to go, this horse turns faster, this horse is the fastest, this horse can run longer, this horse listens the best, or this horse can jump higher. The only reason to buy these horses is keeping up with the Joneses and materialism. The irony of this In Star Stable seasonal rider games, the same company put out in 2008, players were able to purchase horses with in-game currency they'd made by doing chores for stables, and then they could manipulate the stats to make them run faster, run longer, jump higher, listen longer, or turn tighter, depending on which season they were playing and which discipline of equestrianism was important. In Star Stable seasonal games, your ability to win the races depended on you buying the best horse possible, leveling it up to the max stats you needed to defeat whatever riding discipline you were doing to win the championship and thus win the game. And you could do it all in the game without paying any more than what you bought the game for, like Barbie Horse Adventures. Brilliant! And if you knew what horse you needed, you didn't have to buy more than one or two of them. Star Stable Online doesn't have any of this. There is literally no reason to buy horses or play the racing system in the MMO because there is no championship endgame. Well, there is no endgame at all, really, and no PvP with substantial rewards. And because you can buy them for premium currency pretty much as soon as they come out, there's no accomplishment or pride in earning the money in the game to buy the horse or earning the horse in the game. You can't even customize your horse's stats or your rider stats to make you a cross-country racer, a dressage rider, a show jumper, or a western cowgirl. You have a horse game full of adventures without any horse game mechanics to make the players actually earn anything to have a sense of accomplishment about owning this horse. And it's not like they don't know how. They've actually done this earn the horse once or twice. Once with the horse, you still have to buy with premium currency, and one free horse. Let's use the Fjord horse mount as an example. When the Fjord came out in 2014 with the opening of the Valley of the Hidden Dinosaurs, there was a group of NPC people called the Culters. You had to be story level 15 to get into the valley at all. And then when you met the Culters at the big mysterious door, you had to crunch reputation with them by fetching them things from around the valley to get a level of popular reputation, which was 3,000 points, in order to buy the Fjord horse. When you bought the horse, you could buy it at level 10 with basic Culter statless gear. When the stats really don't matter, you're just looking for the prettiest gear at that point. Several years later, after some negative feedback about the Culters being cultural appropriation, and the fact that we're going to be redoing all the game graphics to a new style, they decided to take out both the Culters and the genuine Fjord horse that many players had worked hard to get and felt a great sense of accomplishment because it meant you had done something in the game other players hadn't gotten to yet. And there isn't a lot of that in the game, since most rewards are free gear that doesn't match anything else, so there's no visual progression to this game. If there are no stats to matter, then why would visual progression matter? You were cool. Even though the Fjord really wasn't faster and it had no other meaning in the game, like you can take any horse into Dino Valley. The Fjord was something you worked for, thus it was cool. Then they decided to revamp the Fjord horse. It's a popular breed. But when they revamped the Fjord horse, they didn't put it back to a level 15 requirement. They didn't bring the Culters back or make you grind reputation. Instead, as long as you were player level 6, you can buy this horse. Okay, let me be clear. You can make player level 6 in the first week of the game and in the demo area. The Fjord horse went from being something really cool to having no meaning because you could buy it like any other horse without any effort. Also, they deleted the animations on the rigging for the genuine Fjord horse at some point, so now it is really wonky, so it doesn't match the game's new art style and doesn't move well at all, so what you worked hard for is now a piece of shit. And then they also put in the Rune Runner, a free horse. After Elizabeth's death in the rescue of Anne, they decided the player need to learn the skill of soul riding. Soul riding is running around in circles and avoiding fire. That's pretty much it. And the rewards of soul riding would be an entire outfit instead of gear, all 11 items. Okay, visual progression, I guess. Though their concept art didn't equal the reality of what we got, so that wasn't good. Lore books, some random items like food and particle effects for your horse like butterflies. And lastly, but not leastly, at 120 50,000 reputation points with Rihanna, you got a free Rune Runner horse, which was a reskin palette swapped North Swedish horse with an exclusive hairstyle and braided fetlocks and some fancy horse clipping. You couldn't choose the color of the horse or any of the accessories. As usual, you were locked into this dove gray color of a North Swedish. At 1,200 reputation points a day, once you actually unlock the soul riding missions at 10,000 reputation points with Rihanna. So before that, you can grind 500 reputation points a day. So it takes 20 days to get to unlock the missions, and it can take another 92 days if and only if you are successful at the timed soul riding missions, where if you run into fire, you are dog time, and the NPC horses you're chasing can go through trees and run up hills you can't. So at least 112 days of grind to get an NPC horse that turns out to be level 1 instead of close. And gear, and some lore books about Rihanna herself, instead of learning the sea crusts. So you get to the end of this idiocy, and you still have to level up your new horse to level 15 with more grind. And Rihanna claims you're great friends now. I about punched my screen. No, Rhiannon, I still hate your guts. I hate your guts more now because I just spent 112 days grinding for a level 1 horse that doesn't match the rest of my stable because I buy black horses. I didn't feel accomplished about this. I barely see anyone using this horse in game because why would you want to spend 112 days getting a palette swap horse? You have to spend another week leveling up, and for a set of gear you can buy something prettier at the store and lore that has nothing to do with the plot at hand. This induces player rage. So I beat soul riding, but I don't feel any success because, well, this Rune Runner horse is just... I could buy a black North Swedish, and I have, and if I could just pay for the clipping in the mane and the fetlock style for my black brown sealish North Swedish, I'd be much, much happier. It still lacks any meaning whatsoever, but at least I'd have a horse I was happy with the color. Tea and Honey are side by side in my stables, and I have assigned them the equally meaningless fetch quest crafting druid items for gear. If the Rune Runner had been a horse with its own model rather than just a repainted North Swedish, it might have been more of an accomplishment. It'd be more of an accomplishment if this Rune Runner was actually our soul steed or something. Like, we have not done anything in this game to earn a special horse that is ours and ours alone. They give us the starter horse, and they've stripped everything special from the starter horse, mechanically, pretty much. So there's no reason to claim it as our soul steed. I think I leveled up like 5 horses to max using soul riding grind, probably more. I refused to do it unless I had a horse to level up. Even earned gear in this game doesn't have better stats than something I can grind for like a couple of months given the horrible economy and buy it with in-game currency. And the stuff I buy at the store will probably look better. I mean, lately, the only thing I've been happy to be given was Rowan's black Jorvik Ranger jacket. That was the only jacket I wanted in the Ranger gear, so yay! Now, go put it in a shop, please. So, because you can buy everything in the game with premium currency outside the Rune Runner, which was just a repaint of North Swedish, you can buy, there's no real sense of pride and accomplishment in being a high level in this game. And Star Stable needs to fix that. But that would mean, well, at this point, probably remastering the game, which they need to do for game engine reasons, but let's move on. At 4 minutes, Asmongold asks, shouldn't the success metric be the amount of players' experience in playing the game? A minute later, Asmongold answers his own question to say, beating the game is not a success metric. Enjoying the game is a success metric. So how do we determine what enjoying the game means? I mean, that's different for every player. Let's head over to Josh Strife Hayes, who is the PvE player, and recently had a video called Why I Hate Hardcore PvP MMOs. Which he said a lot of things I have always wanted to say, but being I'm female would get a very negative reaction if I said them. He said some similar things in his review of Mortal Online 2, a hardcore PvP loot on death MMO, but let me see if I can summarize it in a way that won't take too much time. While there are different players who enjoy different aspects of the game for different things and derive more enjoyment out of them, such as PvP players enjoying killing their fellows in big battles, It is the spirit of competition where the idea of your choices make a difference in the outcome of the battle or the story, because everyone is within a reasonable level playing field that makes a game enjoyable, or the quests have sufficient challenge for the player to overcome them at their specific level and build. It isn't fun to be a low-level player ganged up on by a group of high-level players or NPCs and instantly killed as soon as you leave the tutorial zone. It isn't fun to be doing a quest and find it impossible because you can access it before you're supposed to be able to. And it also isn't fun to breeze through quests because they have no obstacles for the player to overcome in any way, or if they're repetitive game mechanics over and over, like kill 10 monsters, escort this guy and kill monsters, and deliver this and kill monsters on the way. Can I do something else and kill monsters, please? Sandbox PvP MMOs are only fun and competitive the first week they're out, and then you start getting the toxic bullies who run around in groups to get loot from low-level players without working for it too hard. A sandbox MMO relies heavily on players creating their own fun by creating their own stories and content, and tend to have player bases that drop off precipitously as soon as the player base becomes rails versus new players. I have seen this in browser games as well. When there is no barrier between the high-level players attacking the low-level players, it is the low-level players that get hurt and are run out of the game. Unless there are other systems in place, and that's not often. Now, in a sandbox MMO, ideally what the players are supposed to be doing is checking their egos and helping out the smaller players and welcoming them to the group, because you want more people playing your game so it will make more money and be a success, so they'll add more maps and monster NPCs to your game. Instead of fostering the spirit of competition, they're supposed to be fostering cooperation and socialization, but there are no game mechanics built into the game to reward this type of behavior outside of the player wanting to do it and making them feel good. I mean, Brenda Laurel, PhD, talked about this way back in 1996 and was summarily derided for making games that emphasized narrative storytelling, socialization, and cooperation over competition and combat, because those games she was making were for girls. And while now MMORPGs have major problems where their players don't want to cooperate and socialize unless forced. And when MMOs are supposed to be fun because you're playing shit together, this creates a huge problem. Now, SSO is a single-player game in an MMO open world, because studios do not want to make single-player games on their own. Okay. And it still has a problem with a lack of player choices to make them feel like they have a hand in how their actions in customizing their character will have an influence on the outcome of the mission and story, because there are no player choices for customization when it comes to their stats, or even different builds of gear, or any mechanics at all. There is a lot of fetch quests and lots of grind. Okay, long-term players are not enjoying this game of any persuasion. I do not enjoy grind. Most of the players are going to avoid grind unless they aren't going to get the Rune Runner, which has excessive amounts of grind beyond what is reasonable. Investors and higher-ups do pay attention to how many players are in the game at a time playing and how long they play. Thus, Star Stable is adding grind instead of content it feels to keep players in the game longer. There is no reason for adding in 6 types of grind that has the player exploring the same map 6 times over, chunk by chunk, in 9 funneled zones. Plus, as I pointed out in my other videos, there is no way to beat this game and no real pay-to-win features. There is no endgame in this game. The story is nowhere near complete. The map isn't complete. Not even the 9-zoned map we have is complete. There is still at least one other zone to open, if they open it at all at once, and don't chop it into 3 or 4 more parts. Don't do this for the sake of little green apples. Please, please, for our sanity, don't do this. Star Stable, as far as I'm aware, supposedly has a player count of 30 million, and allegedly only 5% of those players are active. This game, by MMO standards, is a dead game. It survives on rails who are buying their monthly release of 3 to 6 horses when they come out, and thus putting in at least $390 into the game a year if they buy premium currency on sale. A game with no RPG mechanics, no in-game and no real substantial PvP with actual rewards outside of a ribbon, 100 in-game currency, and your name on top of a leaderboard. All this game has is a cash shop with a lot of cosmetics you can't customize. I've pointed out to win this game, you can buy a subscription, grind for some fancy gear with the best stats, and pay for it with in-game currency, find out what the fastest horse is, buy it with your subscription premium currency bonus, run the championships, earn some ribbons, and you've won the game if PvP racing is your jam. If you are an achiever, you can't win because there's no in-game story at all. Sorry. The only way to get more players to play the game on a regular basis would be to add content, quests, actual mechanics, and make it so you can earn stuff in-game that's better than the stuff you can buy in the shop. Just because you're making a game for girls doesn't mean you can't make it a challenge or fun. There's no need to make a dumb and easy game. Which, right now, Star Stable has no challenge, no meta, no need for bills, nothing to make it fun. Star Stable is not being successful by any definition outside of the fact, well, they are somehow making money. Okay, my lovelies, I'm going to end here because nobody wants to hear me yammer for over an hour. Thank you for listening to me ramble. We'll pick up next time and continue our discussion about how the cash shop is ruining Star Stable Online with more talk from Asmongold and Josh Strife Hayes' videos. So take care of yourselves, bless, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.